In today's video, we are going to learn about AWS Identity Access Management. AWS IAM is a gatekeeper to your AWS account. You can protect your AWS resources with it. You can create new users. You can manage their access level. So no matter you are a beginner or a professional in AWS, you have to know about AWS IAM. Hello everyone, I am Mahesh and I create detailed tutorial videos about cloud. So if you want to learn more about AWS and different cloud services, please subscribe to my channel. Now that's out of the way, let us learn about AWS IAM. Let us start with taking a look at different services offered by AWS IAM. So IAM offers you a centralized access to your AWS account. You can secure all of your AWS services in IAM. Not only that, it is really easy to integrate with different AWS services. With few clicks, you can create different roles or policies which will grant you different access privilege levels to your AWS services and resources. You can manage your access permissions at a really granular level using AWS IAM. So basically you can give somebody access to particular service. You can only give access to read, say for example S3 bucket. You can only give a read access to that bucket to some users, and for few other users you can give a read, write and delete access to that bucket. Not only that, you can also manage you can also enable multi-factor authentication in AWS IAM. So that will add added layer of security to your accounts. You can force users to use multi-factor authentication when they want to log in to IAM. You can also use IAM with federated identity providers like Facebook, Google or Microsoft AD at organization level. So you do not need to create account for each user individually. You can integrate their previously authenticated user ID and password and use that to grant them access to your AWS account. You can also create different password policies depending on the security level or a security provision that you have in your organization. You can say that you need 12 characters long of password. You can force them to use number and capital letters. On top of that, AWS IAM supports payment card industry's data security standard, that is PCI DSS. So if you are using AWS for providing payment services, you can securely rely on AWS IAM to make your transactions more secure. Now that we have got an overview of AWS IAM, let us take a look at different 4 key terms of AWS IAM. Those are users, groups, policies and roles. Users, you can consider them as individuals who want to use your AWS account. You should always create a different user for each individual. You should never share your user ID and password with different individual for security. With groups, you can consider it as a logical separation of users in different sets. Consider in organization, you have a HR team, a developer team and a testing team, and each of users belonging to that team needs to have different kind of access to your AWS services. With groups, you can easily manage that access levels, so you don't have to manage each user's access individually. IAM policies are a JSON document defining different permissions to AWS resources. When we are on AWS console, I will show you sample example of IAM policy. In IAM policy, you can define different resources and actions belonging to that resource. After you create that policy, you can attach it to the particular user or a group. And then final one is the roles. With AWS role, you can give a permission to AWS service to use another AWS service. The classical example will be, say if you want to access your S3 bucket from your EC2 instance. So you should never store your user ID and password in EC2 instance and use that to access S3 bucket or any other service for that matter. You can always create a role which has a permission to access that is S3 bucket and then attach that role to the EC2 instance. That is a recommended way by AWS and it is much secure. These are the 4 main key terms of IAM. Now that we have gone through the theory of IAM, let us jump to the dashboard of AWS and start our hands-on knowledge of IAM. When you log into AWS, you would visit your AWS management console. Here you can see different services provided by AWS. IAM is located in security, identity and compliance. If you have already visited IAM, you would see it in recently visited services as well. When you open IAM, you would see the dashboard of it. Here is the security status of your account. If you are logging it for a first time, you would see the error warnings for all 4 of these. I have already created a user, that's why it is a green tick mark. So it is always good to have all those 4 green tick marks for your account. Basically, these are the best practices recommended by AWS for your account. As we have mentioned, you should never use a root account for your daily activities on AWS. You need to create a new user. A root account has God level privileges to your account and it can do everything and anything. So basically, AWS have recommended please create an administrative user and use that for your daily purposes. And if something is not getting done by your admin user, then only you should use your root account. So let us start by creating a user. Now here you can click on add user. Now let's give him a name. Now you need to choose what kind of access that user is going to have. The programmatic access is basically when you want that user to use different APIs from AWS, from say for your mobile application or web application with your with your language like Python or Java. As this is our admin, I would grant him a programmatic access as well as AWS Management Console access. With the Management Console access, your user will be able to log into AWS Console. And I would keep both of these things as a default. Next, we need to add permissions to our user. Here we can create a new group for our user. We would put him in an admin group and attach him an administrative access policy. So if you want to look into that policy, you can click on this. You can click on this arrow. You can see that with administrative policy, user has access to all actions and resources. So let us attach it to our group. Hit on a create group. So now our user will be placed in this admin group. Next, we can add tags. Tags are basically key and value pairs where we can identify our user afterwards in our AWS account. Those are not mandatory, so you can just leave it. Now let us on the final screen we need to review our user. So everything seems fine, and now just hit on a create user button. Now you should download these credentials for this user, because you won't be able to see them again. This is the only screen you would be able to see its password or access key. So you can download that in CSV, and you can share this password and its access key and access key ID to user, or you can also send him a mail from here only. So after that, you can see that your user have been created. When you go to IAM dashboard, you would see that for the group and for the user, you have now a green tick mark. Next thing is we can activate a MFA for our account. So you can go on to the manage MFA. Now it is giving a warning that we are on a root account, so we know that is okay. Now for MFA, you can use multi-factor authentication with a simple your Android or iOS device. You need to download a Google Authenticator. Once you have downloaded Google Authenticator from App Store or Play Store, just click on Activate MFA and select a virtual MFA from these options. Here it will give a QR code, and it is always a best practice to take a screenshot of this QR code or take a screenshot of this whole page and save it somewhere. So if you lose your device or you all of your data get wiped off from the device, you don't lose access to your AWS account. So take a screenshot, and after that open your Google Authenticator, scan this QR code, and you need to fill up these MFA details here. So when you scan your QR code with Google Authenticator app, it will give you a 6-digit of authentication code. You need to fill that details here, and you need to wait for another 30 seconds to get it over. So it would give you another QR code, and now our MFA is configured. So next time when you will be logging to your account, it will ask for your MFA, and without entering that detail, you won't be able to access your AWS account. Now let's visit our dashboard again. So here MFA is also set. Now we can also set our password policy. We can go into the account setting, and here you can see that we can decide our password policy, like what we want. Say we want minimum password length as 8 digits, 8 characters. We can also make mandatory one uppercase, and that all depends on you, like how much secure passwords you want to force on users. After that, you can click on apply password policy. We have also created our password policy, and we have got all green here, all green tick marks here, stating that we have all completed our security status. One more thing that I want to show you is roles. I mentioned that roles are used when one AWS service wants to communicate with another service. So let us create a role for EC2 instance to access S3. So here you can select EC2. Now we need to add permission. Here AWS have provided us with a lot many managed policies. These are already created by AWS. So say we want to give a S3 read-only access to our EC2 instance. We can select that, and next again we can add tags. Tags are basically, as I mentioned, to identify your resources in later when you want to search them. Those are not mandatory. And now you need to give a name to your role. So let us see. After you put those details, you can hit on a create role, and now you can assign that role to your EC2 instance. This is much secure way to make AWS services communicate with each other. Now this is the basically most important part of IAM. Going forward in our tutorials, we will always create different policies, roles, and learn more about IAM. So that is it for this today's video. If you enjoy my content, please like my video, and if you want to learn more about different AWS services, please subscribe to my channel. See you again.